Hey everybody, welcome to A Course in Miracles Applied. Today's topic is called From the Darkness to the Light. And we're going to explore the journey of the Son of God in a circular fashion. We have different models, and I think it's good to look at that journey from different angles, and perhaps one angle appears better for you than another, so whichever one you use, my goal is for them to be helpful on your journey. We're going to be talking about chapter 11, basically the little bit of the introduction, and then we're going to go into chapter 14, teaching for truth. Those are the chapters, but I'm going to announce them. So I was feeling anxious today, and I'm still not 100% coming out of the closet with regard to fear. I still try to minimize fear by calling it anxiousness, right? The Course doesn't use anxious. The Course uses anxious only 4 times, right? And it uses fear 1,074 times. And we tend to try to minimize it, and the Course says as much. The Course says that minimizing fear, but not its undoing, is the ego's constant effort. We've spoken about this on this channel several times. So when we're with the ego, which is a lot of times, we try to minimize the fear, but we try not to undo it. Because if we undo the fear, we're going back home. And we're not ready for that, right? So we're minimizing the fear in the hope that we will not feel that intense fear. We're minimizing it, but we're also not having peace. So minimizing fear, calling it anxiety, calling it any other by any other name, is part of that strategy of the ego to keep us connected to the ego, so we don't make a choice for the Holy Spirit. I also think the main purpose of this channel, if it really what it really boils down to, is I want to make fear something that can be explored and gone beyond. The ego tries to hide it from us, right? It tries to make it, first of all, we're seemingly afraid of many things, right? Many things in the world, to push us away from the actual fear which is inside. And then it tries to minimize that fear so we don't look at it. And I think part of the process with the Course in this circular fashion on our way home would be to come in contact with that fear, right? And go through it with Jesus by our side. And not a lot of people, or maybe I'm not really sure how many people experience fear on a daily basis. But if you do, then I feel like this is the channel for you, because I feel as if we're open with each other about it and try not to minimize it anymore, just look at it straight, look straight at it, right? That's the way through. Trying to say we're not afraid, or we feel happy all the time, we might come back to this segment or this channel 10 years down the road and realize, okay, now I'm ready to look at the fear, or we've already passed it. But for me, I feel like this channel would be one rung of the ladder where we can look at that fear and feel Jesus's hand when we look at it, because I think that's would be his contribution, to be that presence in our mind with which we can look at fear. So today's topic is from the darkness to the light. I think there is a chapter in the course, From Darkness to Light, also, but I don't think we're going to look at that. So we have another graph, and this part is taken from a previous segment that we did. It was called The Ego and the Son of God, where we showed the goal of the ego and the goal of the Son of God, and showed how much they are aligned right now, currently, right? And our goal is obviously to go past that, but in order to go past that, we have to realize, whoa, my goal and the ego's goal are the same. So this is similar, but we're gonna go in a circular fashion, and we can see this as our own journey from the light of heaven into the world of light that we made, right, as an opposite to the light of heaven. And then from here, we go back home to heaven. So by the end of this hour, we should be back here, right? So you should be home, everything should be fine, and no more fear, okay? Until tomorrow. Anyway, so we start with the light of heaven. We have spoken about the tiny mad idea that the Son of God took seriously. The ego told the Son of God about the guilt, about the sin of separating from God. The guilt followed. We attacked God. Our attack on God was the cause of fear. Because of that fear, we fragmented into billions and billions of pieces. We projected ourselves into the world. We made the world, projected ourselves into it, and we identified with the world and the body, and we're now at a victim of the world here in this body, with a personality, with a job, with relationships and hobbies and such, right? So the ego, because we demand, or the reason why we demand a world of light is because the attraction from God is still very strong. The ego has to work against this constantly, right? Because the attraction from God to us and from us to God is permanent. It cannot be changed. It's changeless, just like heaven, just like love, just like oneness. It cannot be divided, cannot be changed. So the ego has to work against that. It's almost like as if it constantly has to swim against the current. And because we're so identified with the ego, you can imagine now why we're getting tired, right? We cannot be tired. The Course says you cannot get tired. But the burden, I don't think that's the right word, of constant judgment is impossible to carry. So the only reason we're getting tired is because we're swimming against the current, which means we are constantly trying to go against the attraction from love to love, from us to God. So we demanded from the ego to give us a world of light, because we came from light and we have this distant memory, this forgotten song in our mind, and we ask the ego, I want this world back. And the ego says, I will give you this world. What it doesn't tell us is, I can never give you this world, right? It tells us, I will give you this world. It omits the never, right? So it gives us a world of light, seemingly, right? With the sun, stars, the heaven, the earth. We have sunsets, we have beautiful, incredible landscapes, things like that, in this quote-unquote world of light. If we would step back just one step and see the earth in the vastness of space, the areas that have a sun illuminating it, are extremely minuscule, right? Space is a world of utter darkness. But the ego concentrates our focus on this world, where we have sunrises, sunsets, we have the moon at night, we have artificial light, and we have the light of the sun. And we believe now we are in this world of light. Special love relationships help with that scenario that we say, okay, we have found heaven on earth, right? The ego's goal is that we are down here in the world and we believe this is the world of light, right? We have forgotten heaven. We have forgotten the real light of heaven. We have been adjusting, and the Course talks about sin as an adjustment. We have adjusted to the light in the world, the light in the world, and we believe this is the only light there is, right? So we are in this world of light. When I was 22, I was on my way home from my job. My now ex-wife we were expecting a baby. And I had a nice job, we had a nice apartment, I had a nice life, and I was stuck in traffic on a Friday afternoon, and all of a sudden this question came up and it said, is this everything? Can this be everything? And that moment set in motion this search, this internal search for something bigger than this artificial light. And I think every Course student and other paths, but we're talking about Course students here, but every Course student must have had this moment where we said, this can't be everything, right? There must be a better way, like Bill and Helen said, or this can't be everything, this cannot be it, right? I can't live if this is all there is. What am I doing here, right? And at that very moment, we must have spent a good amount of time in this world. And whether or not we believe in reincarnation, it doesn't really matter, but we must have spent lifetimes in this world, having good lives, bad lives, ugly lives, successful lives, poor lives, rich lives, whatever we did, right? Eventually, we all come to this point, and we've all been there, that we say, down here at the very bottom, there must be another way. This world of light is empty. And that can be a very hard moment. There's a line in the Course, yeah, I can't find it. It's basically says tolerance. Yeah, in chapter 2, imagine that. First couple of pages in the Course, it says, tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. That is in chapter 2, section 3, the altar of God, paragraph 3. So this is not necessarily physical pain, right? This is emotional pain. I never had or have a lot of physical pain. For me, it was always, since my teenage years, I always felt emotional pain. That was always my way of feeling that this cannot be all there is, right? Because the pain really is only there because we're not here, right? We're a stranger in a strange land. There's no way we don't have pain. It's either physical or it is emotional or mental, right? We must be at a point, and when we come down to this point down here, we must have let go of some of the layers of defenses that we put over that pain, right? We must arrive at a point where we say, oh my God, this cannot be all there is. And the reason we say that is because we're in pain. Some of us more, some of us a little less. It expresses itself in different ways, but that moment is there. And Jesus says he knows what we're going through. He says tolerance for pain may be high, right? But it is not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. So that better way, that moment, we must have gone through that, otherwise we would not be with the Course. That from that moment on, we're going back up. Uh-oh, my dog is doing something. I'll be right back. Okay, so we are at that moment down at the very bottom of this circle. And we say there must be another way. Now, the pain at that moment will not go away. This is not like an aspirin. As a matter of fact, it's usually an invitation to, once we uncover those layers, the pain might increase for a while. But nevertheless, so we're on this journey back now, right? We made some kind of a commitment to ourselves to find this better way. And usually stuff happens in our lives after that, and those things are a little bit more conscious. That moment of decision down here might not be a conscious moment. It might be in the depth of our pain or fear or regret or whatever those emotions are that we have. We might not be aware that we say to ourselves, there must be something else, right? At some point on this journey back, we, us as Course students, stumbled upon the Course, right? And we have all stories about how we got to it, how it fell in our lap, literally or figuratively, or a friend gave it to us, or we all have stories about how we came to the Course, right? None of it was by accident. It was a direct effect of this decision, right? It is as if you stand in Manhattan and you call a cab. Maybe Manhattan isn't a good example because cabs don't stop that often, but usually if you call a cab, it'll stop, right? So we called something down here. A little bit further down the road, we meet the Course. And for whatever strange reason and reasons that we might not even know, we are reading this book now. We don't understand half of it, right? We might be reluctant, we might feel resistance, we might feel ambivalent. We might be weirded out by the Christian language or the Shakespearean meter or the double negatives, the triple positives, and who's the I in that sentence. But something is in there that keeps us kind of turning the page, right? And think, all right, I'll give this another chance. We come to certain channels, we meet certain people, or get maybe books that write about it, or channels like this YouTube channel that talk about it. But in general, what happens in this moment when we take the Course, obviously we're not anywhere near, first of all, understanding what this is. Second of all, wanting to understand what this is. We're so identified with the ego that it is hard for our, I'm going to say spark, because the Course talks about the spark, to create enough light for us to even see the path, right? We're still on our own path. doing our own thing. But we opened ourselves up to the Course. The Course came into our lives. And now the Course is nothing external, right? The Course is not a book. The book is the outward expression of an interior presence that we have chosen, completely subconsciously most of the time. Right? Nothing happens in this world. This is a screen, and we have projected ourselves onto it, right? Because we're afraid of God. We attack God. We think we attack God. We're afraid. We came into the world as a hiding place. And the Course comes to us in a form we can understand. I don't know if you've ever seen Contact, the movie, Matthew McConaughey, Jodie Foster, right? At the very end, when the aliens, Jodie Foster goes through that machine and she has this 18-hour experience that was only like 10 seconds in this time, and she makes contact with the aliens, and the aliens come to her in her father's shape, because she would not be able to understand the aliens at all, right? Because it's a completely different language. It would be such strange symbols that she would say, "What? I don't even know what this is. Is this a form? Is this a shape? Is it a thought? What is it?" So the aliens talk to her in her father's appearance. And this is the same here. The Course is really an internal, it is our right mind extended to the outside, so we can have symbols that we work with, but all the process is inside. Right? There's no exterior process, even though we believe it is. So the Course comes to us in a language we can understand and love. So we have the Course, we work with it as well as we can, right? We mix it with other things. I mean, all of us have many, many different ways of dealing with it. And we do the best we can at every moment, right? By default. Because the author of the Course is Jesus, eventually we might say, wait a minute, this Course is written by Jesus, right? Same thing, Jesus is a symbol, an external symbol for a love that is not of this world, right? It's an interior presence. But we're too afraid to go back into the mind, because the mind, we believe, contains our sin and our guilt and the attack on God. And it is a very intense, as the Course says, a battleground. The mind is a battleground. So the Course Jesus cannot work, especially down here, in the mind. We would not go in the mind if the Course would say right away, this Course is not in the world, it's in the mind. Jesus is in the mind, God is in the mind. We're going to do this internal. We're going to say goodbye, right? So the Course comes to us in this external world. We have groups, we have this channel, we talk to other people about it, and we read an external book, and we come in contact with a presence in the Course that seems to be external in those pages, reflecting it back to us. We can only really experience Jesus' presence for very, very, very short periods of time, if we're really honest. If we would experience Jesus' presence for hours and hours a day, truly, there would be no need for this Course. We would just go home. There's no need for us to do all this, right? We would know, we would be in the mind, and this world here and this body would just be an exterior expression of it, and we would know we are not here, we are home, at home in God, dreaming of exile, right? Most of us aren't there. Most of us still believe we're in this body, in this world, so Jesus comes to us in a form that we can accept. Or love comes to us in a form we can accept, and it takes the name and the presence of Jesus. So we invite Jesus in at some point, consciously or unconsciously. We read his course, we think about his thoughts. We may or may not have a quote-unquote relationship with him, but we do have a relationship with him because we're reading his book, right? We can exchange it for the Holy Spirit. Either way is fine. But we will at some point take the hand of this interior teacher. Again, to the best of our ability at that very moment. If we would be 100% willing, with no resistance at all, to take Jesus's hand, why would we need the course? There's no need for it, right? The course is there to remove the block between us and the presence of Jesus within our mind. If we can already do that, we don't need the course. So if you can do that already, you can turn off this channel and eat something. Get a nice meal, watch some TV, because, we'll see you on the other side. But for most of us, really, we do what we can. We work with how we can work with this material. And then we think we have a couple of experiences with Jesus or with the Holy Spirit or some holy instance, and we think this is it, right? We don't realize that all of this brings us here. And if you have this, if you go into here, this is a little darker. So in the graph that I'm going to attach to this video, this is light, quote unquote light, and this is darkness. This is the darkness of the mind that starts with our belief in sin and is all the way down here, all the way down into the world. But this is the mind that is darkened by fear because we believe we killed God. And if you look at this graph, we went down those stairs, right? We went all the way down those stairs into the basement, into this lowest of the lowest points, and then we say there must be another way. We cannot possibly expect to be here in the next 30 years, right? Or 10 years, or however long it is. We cannot expect to just go back home just because we have an experience of Jesus. When we start having those experiences with Jesus, usually, or with the Holy Spirit, whatever name you give it, usually that is when we begin this journey through the darkness, right? Because we must have a certain trust and faith in the presence of Jesus within us in order to go up through those more intense layers of our psyche, right? And Jesus talks about this at length in the laws of chaos. They're a little bit here, but then in the obstacles to peace, he really goes into the depth of our ego thought system, all the way up to the fear of God in our mind, right? That we have to pass through, and then we can make a decision for Jesus or the Holy Spirit. So this circular motion, and Jesus talks about that many times, right? He says, we will retrace our steps up the ladder, separation let you down. Chapter 28, section 3, for you have barely started to allow your first uncertain steps to be directed up the ladder, separation let you down. Chapter 28, section 3. So what happens in this phase of our journey, which is the majority of our work with the Course? The majority of our work with the Course is not down here, where we're still so fully identified with the body that we think we read a book that is external of us, and somehow we feel a little better in this world, and we think that's it, right? That's all preparation for this, going into the darkness here and moving up the ladder, but we're going through those layers of defenses, right? We're looking at those. And this is not a linear journey. One day we look at fear more, one day we look at guilt more, one day we look at other things, our identification with the body. So we're in this curriculum with Jesus where we basically look at the whole of our ego thought system with him. So this journey, even though it goes through the darkness, and it's not an easy journey, right? At the very same time, this is when we establish a deeper connection to Jesus or the Holy Spirit. It can't be any other way. There are certain levels in our mind that we can only reach. For the lack of a better example, some caves are so dark you need a extra strong light, right? And the person that is at the gate will not let you go through unless you have that really 10,000 lumen flashlight with you. So some aspects of the ego thought system will literally have no access to until we have established a relationship with Jesus enough that we can actually look at those and not be so afraid that we're going right down to this very point, very at the very bottom. Okay, enough talk. So Jesus says, for example, in chapter 11, in the introduction, the chapter is called God or the Ego, Introduction. He says in the introduction, paragraph 3, it's on page 193 in the text. He says, the more you approach the center of his thought system, the Holy Spirit's, the clearer the light becomes. The closer you come to the foundation of the ego's thought system, the darker and more obscure becomes the way. Right? Makes total sense. We're still in the world of light. The further we go up into the mind, the closer we come to the very, very corner of the cornerstone of the ego thought system, which is the attack on God. Because we're so sinful, that is the dark cornerstone, the foundation of the ego thought system. Foundation of the ego thought system is the belief in sin. This is the avalanche. This is the pebble that sets in motion the avalanche, right? Yet even the little spark in your mind is enough to lighten it. Bring this light fearlessly with you and bravely hold it up to the foundation of the ego's thought system. Be willing to judge it with perfect honesty. Open the dark cornerstone of terror on which it rests and bring it out into the light. There you will see that it rested on meaninglessness and that everything of which you have been afraid of was based on nothing. But we have to bring this spark with us, and the spark which would be the presence of Jesus within us, right? That we look at those dark cornerstones with him. Otherwise, if we look by ourselves, in the darkness, in the dark, this fear, this attack on God is overwhelmingly large. It is an unsurmountable obstacle to the peace of God, if we look at it on our own. And then he says in paragraph 4, my brother, you are part of God and part of me. When you have at last looked at the ego's foundation without shrinking, right? You will also have looked upon ours, and ours is Jesus' thought system, right? That we are completely forgiven. Whatever is in this layer of darkness, Jesus knows that the sin, which is the foundation of the ego thought system, cannot have happened because oneness cannot be divided. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists, right? So if oneness cannot be divided, sin cannot be there, and all of this cannot be there, but we, as the Son of God that is connected to the ego, don't know that. We're learning it gradually, right? Jesus knows it. So that's why when he says, when you have looked upon the darkness of the ego thought system, you will also have looked upon my thought system, which is the thought system that we are completely forgiven. We cannot go here unless we have established somewhat of a relationship with Jesus or the Holy Spirit. I come to you from our Father to offer you everything again. Do not refuse it in order to keep a dark cornerstone hidden, for its protection will not save you. I give you the lamp, and I will go with you. You will not take this journey alone. I will lead you to your true Father, who hath need of you as I have. Will you not answer the call of love with joy? So if you imagine Jesus, we are at the bottom of the well, and he's reaching down, holding out his hand for us to grab his hand, right? That would be the symbolic meaning of inviting Jesus in. And then we will go with him on this journey through the darkness. And that is only a seeming darkness, because Jesus has the light, he has the lamp, right? Our eyes are closed and we're like, oh my God, it's so dark in here, because we have this belief in sin. So he illuminates the path, and we take him by the hand and go through this darkness with him, right? That is the process of the Course. If we stay down here and think the world is real and the world is a nice place and everything is fine down here, while I have Jesus, everything is fine down here. That's okay, but we won't be able to go back home, because we still believe in our sin. We just don't know it. I'm gonna just read a couple more of those kind of similar paragraphs. It's sometimes good to hear them all together so that it's kind of clear what Jesus' message is for us, right? Okay, now we're going to page 286 in the text, which is chapter 14, section 6, and paragraph 8. We're starting at sentence 3. He says, therefore, keep no source of interference from his sight, for he will not attack your sentinels. But bring them to him, and let his gentleness teach you that in the light they are not fearful, and cannot serve to guard the dark doors behind which nothing at all is carefully concealed. So we have this world of light, right? We think worldly things are something of value in and of itself. But all they do from the perspective of the ego is close up access to this mind, which ultimately means close up access to the point up here where we can decide for the Holy Spirit and go back home. Right? So this world of light, quote unquote, is the sentinels. Those are the sentinels, right? If our attention is grabbed on the outside, either with something bad or something good, a diamond or something bloody, doesn't matter, right? Our attention is focused on the outside world. That means we're not going inside to realize that this is all defense after defense after defense on top of that place where we can make a choice against the ego. Nothing is carefully concealed. This is nothing. But unless we look at it, we will think it's something, and we will stay down here. We will not touch the darkness of our mind. We will not go with Jesus back to heaven. We will, but it will take much, much, much longer. We must open all doors and let the light come streaming through. There are no hidden chambers in God's temple. Its gates are open wide to greet his Son. So Jesus' presence at this very moment when we listen to this channel or any time during the day, Jesus' love is 100% accessible. The gates are open wide. The gates of God's temple are open wide to greet his Son. So if the gates to the temple of God, to the peace of God, are open, why aren't we going through? Why are we still here and not here with our awareness? Right? The reason, we don't have a conscious reason for it. We have an unconscious reason for it, which is our belief in sin that causes guilt. We push this guilt out, we attack God, and we're now afraid of him. That's why we're not going through the gate, because we're afraid of him, of God. That's why we need Jesus to look at this with us in all the forms this fear appears that we started this segment with. This fear appears in thousands and thousands of forms in this world, right? It is always this one fear of God that comes from our belief we have sinned against him and we have attacked God. We have destroyed heaven. So Jesus' job, this presence of Jesus in our mind, is to illuminate this, right? It's like a spotlight. The spotlight from Jesus, right? This is the spotlight of Jesus. It's a very bad spotlight. The light shines on here. The light is not concerned with this. It's not concerned with us being the victim of the world. This is an effect. The light is not down here in the world. That's why Jesus does not get us parking spaces. Right? Why would he do that? Right? He doesn't give us partners. He doesn't heal us from cancer. He doesn't heal us our money problems. Right? He doesn't make a check appear in the mail. Jesus' light is to illuminate the dark cornerstone of the ego, which is our attack on God. We think our wish to separate is an attack. And Jesus says, your wish to separate has absolutely no consequence at all because it cannot happen. Right? Its gates are open wide to greet his Son, right? It's all completely open. The peace of God is available right now. But why are we not there? Because we believe we attacked God and we're hiding in the world. And it is extremely painful to realize, first of all, we have lost our home, we have lost heaven, we have lost love. We are love, and we have lost it, right? So we are in utter despair because we have lost our home. We are in the desert. In space, no one can hear you scream, right? As the Alien movie says. We are in space, we're screaming, and we think nobody can hear us because we believe our wish to separate from God has killed him. And Jesus says nothing, right? He says absolutely nothing. he shines the light on this. And when we look at this with him, we will realize in time how preposterous it is that we can possibly separate from God. But we must look at this dark cornerstone of the ego. Otherwise, we will stay down here and think we're up here, right? And here's another one, just a page further, on page 287 in the text. That is chapter 14, section 7, sharing perception with the Holy Spirit, paragraph 2. So page 287, paragraph 2. It says, the search for truth is but the honest searching out of everything that interferes with truth. Truth is, right? It can neither be lost, nor sought, nor found. Nothing to talk about. We don't have to talk about truth. It's there, it's waiting. We don't know what it is. We have no clue what oneness is. To say we're one with you, I'm one with you, makes absolutely no sense down here, right? We can forget oneness. It's there, period. What we have to concentrate on is search out everything that interferes with it, and everything that interferes with it in 1,000 different forms is our fear, because we think we attacked God. That is what we work with here. We think it's here in the world. We think the relationship to our boss, we are afraid of him, but we're not afraid of him. We are afraid because we believe we attacked God, right? So we look at the boss that think we're afraid of with Jesus, over time realizing we're not afraid of our boss. We can only be afraid of our boss because we have projected our guilt onto him, right? We have attacked our boss, and now we're afraid of him, just like we have attacked God, and now we're afraid of God. So whatever happens here, we just take that and push it down here. Now we think the world contains this battle up here that is in the mind. And Jesus says, no, 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 no. There's nothing happening in this world. Everything is happening here in the mind, at the very foundation of the ego thought system. So, truth is, it can neither be lost, nor sought, nor found. It is there, wherever you are, being with you, right? The presence of God, the presence of Jesus is with us, because the separation that we think is there between us and truth, which is all this, is not there, because sin is impossible. If sin is impossible, none of this happens, because oneness cannot be divided, right? But we don't know that. We think we divided oneness. Yet it can be recognized or unrecognized, real or false to you. If you hide it, it becomes unreal to you because you hid it and surrounded it with fear. It would be the truth up here, right? So let's do this again. Yet it, the truth, can be recognized or unrecognized, real or false to you. If you hide it, we hide it here through all those layers of defenses that we pushed in front of it. It becomes unreal to you because you hid it and surrounded it with fear. In Sleeping Beauty, we have all those thorns around the castle where Sleeping Beauty sleeps, and the prince has to go through the thorns to get to her, right? We have surrounded it by fear. With fear. Under each cornerstone of fear on which you have erected your insane system of belief. The truth lies hidden. Under each fear, beyond each fear we have, is the truth. Hidden from us. right? We place the fear in front of the truth. You cannot know, yet you cannot know this, for by hiding truth in fear, you see no reason to believe that the more you look at fear, the less you see it and the clearer what it conceals becomes. That is one of the most important sentences in the course when it comes to our process, right? By hiding truth in fear, we're hiding truth in this fear, right? You see no reason to believe that the more you look at fear, the less you see it. The ego says, don't look at fear. Look at fear down here in the world. You're afraid of heights. You're afraid of spiders. You're afraid of the stock market crashing, right? You're afraid of your neighbor. You're afraid of a war. You can look at that, right? But it does not want us to look inside, to look at the fear. And we don't see a reason to believe that the more we look at fear, the less we will see it. And the clearer what it conceals becomes, the clearer truth becomes to us, the more we look at fear. So this is again on page 287, paragraph 2. This is a powerful, powerful paragraph because it tells us exactly what's going on, right? We're hiding truth in fear, and we don't want to go anywhere near fear because we don't want to go anywhere near truth. We do not want to go near the presence of Jesus within us. We have encircled it in fear, and we don't want to go near that fear because part of us knows that behind the fear, the presence of Jesus waits for us in light. And we're afraid of the light because we believe we attacked it. So we don't want to look at the fear. We want to look at the fear in the world because we're comfortable. We're perversely comfortable with fear in the world. We are happy that we're afraid of a war or a virus, right? Or cancer or an accident or the stock market crash. We're happy about that because that prevents us from looking at the fear, which would lead us to realize there's nothing, and we would be right back at God. And the ego says, no, right? Can't do it. Okay, one more. This is on page 288. This is still in the same chapter, Sharing Perception with the Holy Spirit. Page 288, paragraph 6. So it says, the Holy Spirit asks of you, but this. Right? That's the only thing the Holy Spirit asks of us. Bring to him every secret you have locked away from him. Open every door to him and bid him enter the darkness and lighten it away. At your request, he enters gladly. He brings the light to darkness if you make the darkness open to him, right? We only have to be open to say, Jesus, I don't know what this is, but I'm ready and willing to look at it a little bit. Not like fully, right? Please help me to see this darkness a little bit more clearer so that eventually I can come out and go to the truth, the love that is there, right? My home. The prince asks Jesus to say, come on, let's go through the thorns. I'll go through the thorns with you, Jesus says. So we can make our way through it and arrive where the princess sleeps, right? So you can kiss her. But what you hide, he cannot look upon. If we hide in the world and we say we're afraid of something in the world, and we insist that the fear comes from the world, he can't do anything because there's nothing here. It's all a projection, right? So we can tell him, listen, I believe 99% that I'm afraid of an accident. I'm afraid of flying. Please help me to realize that I'm not afraid of flying. And in time, we will get to this, right? If we ask him for help, we will get up there and realize the fear of flying is a camouflage over the fear of God. And the fear of God is a camouflage over the love of God. He holds the light and you the darkness. They cannot coexist when both of you together look on it. His judgment must prevail, and he will give it to you as you join your perception to his. So we hold the darkness. The darkness is in our mind. Jesus holds the light. And together we look at it. And if we look at the darkness together with the presence of Jesus, only one of them can come out on the other side. The illusion must make way to the truth, right? We must bring the light and the darkness together. We must bring our thoughts of darkness to the presence of Jesus within us. And then eventually we realize that only one of them is real, and which is the presence of Jesus. Nothing real can be threatened, right? Love is real. Fear is not. But we can't get there until we have them both side by side. We look with the presence of love onto our fear, and eventually in time, one of the two must disappear. And that is the whole journey from here up there. And it comes to us in many, many, many forms in our own framework, right? In our own language, within our own circumstances, within our own frame of mind, right? The fear of God, this attack on God might express itself in our personal lives in many, many different ways, right? All we need to do is look at it and ask Jesus for help, realizing that our fear of whatever we think we're afraid out there or upset about out there has nothing to do with that. It is the fear because we believe we attacked God. And we can ask Jesus to look at that with us and say, is that really true? Did I really attack God? And I think it's important not to try to answer it, because the ego comes in right with an answer and says, no, you didn't attack God. But it only wants us to go back into the world, right? Jesus wants us to go there and stay there for a little bit and feel it. And take him by the hand and walk literally through the clouds to the other side with him. Not withdraw and say, oh, this is nothing, right? So it's kind of a little bit of a balance, and it's a little bit of a process to how we start to learn how to look at the darkness with him. It's a process to learn that. But we can learn it because we made this promise to ourselves down here when we said there must be a better way to actually do it. And we will do it, right? Because we're already up here looking back, just revisiting the stations of our journey while we're still at home with God. Nothing has happened in the meantime, right? All right, I think that's it for today. I don't even have a final meditation. All right, maybe I do have a paragraph, which is on page 447. Page 447, that is in chapter 21, section 1, the Forgotten Song. And I'm just going to read paragraph 8, which says, beyond the body, beyond the sun and stars, past everything you see, and yet somehow familiar, is an arc of golden light that stretches as you look into a great and shining circle. And all the circle fills with light before your eyes. The edges of the circle disappear, and what is in it is no longer contained at all. The light expands and covers everything, extending to infinity, forever shining, and with no break or limit anywhere. Within it, Everything is joined in perfect continuity. Nor is it possible to imagine that anything could be outside, for there's nowhere that this light is not. Thanks for watching.